Good afternoon. Yeah, please have your seat. Thank you. Sonobe-san, are you ready online? Sonobe-san, I hope the technician group, could you please check if Sonobe-san, the opening remarks is ready online? Okay. Yeah, okay. Then, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My pleasure to be the moderator of this session, hosted by ADBI, Agri-System and Health. The title is Examining Health and Well-being of Producers and Consumers in the Agri-Food System. So welcome, everyone. I hope we will have more people will join us. Now, I would like to introduce myself. I'm the Senior Research Fellow of Asia Development Bank Institute. My name is Yixin Yao. I originally come from Ministry of Finance, China. I have been the secondary at the Asia Development Bank for around 3 years till now. Now, I would like to introduce Dean Sonobe-san to deliver his opening remarks for this session. Dio-san, is okay? Dio-san. You think, because I have to check if Sonobe-san online. Yeah. Okay. I hope the technician group colleagues could help us to check if Dean Sonobe-san is online. First, I would like to introduce Dean Sonobe-san. Dean and CEO Sonobe-san is a Dean and CEO of Asia Development Bank Institute from 2020, and the ADBI is a ADB affiliated think tank located in Tokyo. I just got message from my colleague, the Vice Chair of Research Department of Asia Development Bank Institute, Dr. Dio, that Dean Sonobe-san may not join us online because of some urgent business schedule. Now, I would like, then we can save some time, and I would like to introduce the panelists this afternoon. We have 7 panelists here, and 5 of them will be sit here, and 2 of them will will give us their panel discussion online. So first of all, I would like to welcome our speaker, Dr. Tilak Malawatchi. My pronounce good? Okay. After I introduce all of you, I would like you can choose your seat here if you like, okay? So, first of all, please join us welcome Dr. Tilak Malawatchi, please. Please have a seat here. You can choose any seat there. This is one. This one is mine. Thank you.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Yeah, please join us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have your seat. Then I will have a very brief introduction of Dr. Tilak Malawatchi. Dr. Tilak Malawatchi is an honorary associate professor, School of Economics, University of Queensland, partner, and Walama Insights, and immediate the past president, Australia Agriculture and Resource Economic Society. Dr. Tilak is also an applied economist with experiences across government, industry, and academia in Australia and overseas. Since 2002, Dr. Tilak worked as a principal research fellow at the Research, Risk and Sustainable Management Group at the University of Queensland, and since retirement in 2020, holds an honorary professor position with the University of Queensland. Dr. Tilak was a senior economist at Australia Bureau of Agriculture and Resource Economics and Science, and has worked extensively on Australian natural resources management issues. Since 1989, Dr. Tillard's international work with the Australia Centre of International Agricultural Resource has examined options to reduce farm-level risk across farming community in East and South Africa, classification of farming system in Africa and Cambodia, and policy and institutional reform in Pakistan. And Dr. Tillard holds a bachelor degree agriculture from Sri Lanka and master in agriculture development economics from Australia National University, and a PhD resource economics from James Cook University. Dr. Tillard is an associate editor of the Australia Journal of Environmental Management. So please join us, give a welcome to Dr. Tillard. Then the second panelist, I would like to introduce Vice Chair of Research and Senior Fellow of Asia Development Bank Institute, my colleague, Dr. Dio Lahut. Please, thank you. Please have a seat. Now, the brief introduction of Dr. Dio Lahut. He is the Vice Chair of Research and the Senior Research Fellow at the Asia Development Bank Institute. And Dr. Dio research focuses on development, microeconomics, agriculture economics, and environmental and natural resource economics. He is currently implementing experiments and fields research in agriculture, natural resource, and climate in Asia. Before he joined ADBI, he was a senior global program manager for the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Centers. May you heard of that? CIMMYT. So Dr. Dio is a CIMMYT social economist, and he's working on the sustainable intensive programs and served as the chair of the staff's committee at CIMMYT. He also previously worked for the Royal Monetary Authority of the Bhutan Research and Statistics Department and served as a research fellow at the World Fish Center and senior fellow and Japan chair at the India Council for Research in International Economic Relations and chief of research planning and monitoring and visa master director at the Bank of Bhutan, and assistant professor of development economics at South Asia University. He has over 130 publications in the famous journal and has guest editored several journal special issues. He also served as an editorial board member of the Asia Development Review and lectures. And he lectured at the University of Tokyo, Hitotsubashi University in Japan on recent issues in development economics. So please join me. Welcome, Dr. Dio again. Thank you. Now, I would like to invite Professor Ratna Reddy Vipala. Am I pronunciation correct? Yeah, she will join us online. Yeah, she will join us online, but I would like to introduce her. Is Professor Ratna Reddy Vipala, are you ready there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, Professor Ratna Reddy Vipala is a director, Livelihood and National Resource and Management Institute, Hyderabad, India. Hyderabad, India.
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Ratna Reddy Vipala has 30 years experiences in natural resource economics and management, impact evaluation, watershed and water resource management, and agriculture policy development. And he's an economist by training. He has worked in the field of environmental, economic, and natural resource management, climate change, and institutions. Professor Vipala brings rich experiences of undertaking policy-relevant research beyond academia. He has served the government of India and also served as a consultant for a range of international organizations such as the World Bank and the United Nations Development Programme and the UN Flores. Professor Vipala has contributed towards developing Nexus-related curriculum for the UNUFLOIES online course and on life cycle cost assessment of infrastructure project, and co-author of a chapter on the same topic for the book Publication Governing the Nexus, Spring 2015. So please join us. Welcome Dr. Redda Reddy Vipala.
Thank you.
Hi, my technician group colleagues, could you please show the face of Dr. Redna? Please help us. Thank you. Then I would like to introduce you the Preeta, Dr. Preeta Data. Please, come and have a seat here. We would like welcome Professor Rita Data. Have a seat here. Thank you. Please, this side. Dr. Preeta Data is an assistant professor at the Development of Policy and Management Studies, TERI School of Advanced Studies, in New Delhi, India. Her research focuses on climate change, food security, and the intricate relationship between humans and the environment. And her work places a strong emphasis on devising adaptation strategy to assist communities that are susceptible to the impacts of climate change. So please join me. Welcome Professor Preeta Data again. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce Professor Jeffrey Smith. Please, come here. Professor Jeffrey Smith is the EXCO President and International Life Science Institution, Southeast Asia region. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Have a seat. Jeffrey Smith is the chairman of the Essential Micronutrient Foundation and a non-profit organization which addresses micronutrient deficiencies globally as a public health issues. And he also served as the president of ILSI, Southeast Asia region based in Singapore, and co-representative to the Global ILSI Assembly. He is a part member of the Executive Committee of the Global ILSI Board, and he is the author of peer-reviewed papers on nutrition and dietary issues, and he served as a member of the editorial board of the journal Food and Nutrition Bulletin. Before he takes the current position, Jeffrey Smith was the global director, the health chelators for the ozonobel function chemicals, and he was responsible for the global project with ozonobel addressing iron deficiencies anemia, and which resulted in completely revised guidelines by the World Health Organization for flour fortification with iron. And he has a 30 years veteran of the chemical industry in Asia Pacific and globally. Mr. Smith has resided in Singapore for more than 30 years, and he is a member of the Nutrition Society of the UK and the American Society of Nutrition and the American Chemical Society. He is also the editor of the ILSI Naval Alert newsletter on nanotechnology in food and agriculture. Thank you. Please join me. Welcome Geoffrey Smith again. Thank you. Now, I would like to have some introduction of today's discussion. Oh, we also have a speaker, panelist join us online, Dr. Paul Ten. So, my technician group, could you please show their face, or if it is okay for you? Okay, Dr. Paul Ten, he's the Dean and the Managing Director, National Institute of Education International. Yeah, and Professor Paul Ten, he received his PhD from the University of Canterbury, New Zealand in 2078. Okay, welcome you, Dr. Payne. Are you okay? Can you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome you join us online. Welcome. And we will have a very brief introduction of you. Therefore, in interest of time, Professor Ten has extensively researched food security generally and specifically on the role of plant disease in causing epidemics and crop losses in several continents, working cooperatively with a network of national program scientists. And his work has led to over 250 journal papers and 8 books and numerous conference papers and recognition by peer organizations. So Professor Ten has won awards such as Erickson Prize in Plant Pathology in 1987 and given by the Royal Swedish Academy of Science every 5 years to a scientist who has made significant contribution to solving plant disease programs affecting developing countries. He is a fellow of the Third World Academy of Science and the American Cytopathological Science. And thank you for your pronunciation. The International Society of Plant Pathology, and was co-recipient of 2001 sg-afnr Excellent in Science Award of Outstanding Scientist. A lot of awards. Now, please join me again to welcome Dr. Paul Ten again. Welcome you. Okay, thank you all. Thank you very much. And then we have still have another panel discussion online. Dr. Hongmei Yi, Professor Hongmei Yi, are you there? Ready? Please, technician group, show us her face. If you can, okay. Hongmei Yi, welcome you.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to have a very brief introduction of Dr. and Professor Hongmei Yi. She is a professor of China Center for Agricultural Policy, Peking University, located in Beijing, China. Dr. Hongmei Yi is a professor at the School of Advanced Agriculture Science and the Deputy Director of the Institute for New Rural Development and the Senior Research Fellow at the China Center for Agricultural Policy, Peking University. Before joining Peking University, Dr. Hongmei Yi worked at the Chinese Academy of Science for 6 years, and her research interests are development economics, agricultural economics. She has been explored how to improve the design of relevant public policies by impact evaluation and social experiments to improve their performance. By March 2024, she has more than 100 publications in esteemed journals such as the Journal of Development Economics and the Journal of Comparative Economics and BMJ, among others. She also actively supports government policy decisions of a series of policy briefs she submitted. Most of them are noted by the national leaders. Welcome, please join me, welcome Dr. Yihong Mei again. Thank you. Now, that's all of our panel introduction. For this afternoon, it is a panel discussion. So next, we will have some, every panel discussion will have around 8 minutes to present their opinions. So first of all, I would like you join me to welcome Dr. Pilat to present some his views on our topic. Welcome, please. Pilat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
While I load the presentation, I want to thank everyone who is here today. And I said, this is the last day of the conference, and you have heard a lot of talks, and then being here shows that the interest that we have in this topic. And for ADB and ADBI, for arranging this session, and then giving this opportunity for us to discuss this important topic. And this presentation is actually based on both myself and Dr. Dil Rahut. Actually, we drew this talk from a policy brief we have just released in the last few days from the ADBI website. You can have access to the full policy brief at the ADBI website. Can you have the slides, please? Yeah. And
use this?
okay, yeah.
Can you use this?
Yeah, I can. Okay. Therefore, we all know that food security is important. I don't have to tell that, right? But what I am going to tell here is really some of the experiences that we have attained and we have observed while working around the world as to what is we are trying to achieve in the development process to maximize the well-being of people through the food system. And while we all know that we have over the last 20 years in particular, we have achieved significant level of food availability in the food system. And the nature of food we being served in these places, or we go to a restaurant we get, and of very, very high quality. But there are certain people still who do not have food. But doesn't matter whether you are in a rural village or you are in the 5-star hotel, the food that you consume have another aspect that we sometimes ignore, or we are not aware of, or we are ignorant of. That is the food safety issue. That is the issue that I want to highlight here. Because we believe, and in our discussions we have found, security without safety is actually not security. Therefore, if you have, although all our development effort has led to increased food security to a large extent, if that food is actually not safe in the sense of meeting your nutritional needs and exposing yourself to certain risks that eventuate over a long period of time, then we are creating a social liability in the system that actually that liability is diminishing our well-being. Therefore, the policy problem is that then how do we as a society in the public policy sense, we minimize that liability? That is the focus that we want to bring in this presentation. Therefore, if you don't do that, then invariably we are exposing the society to future risks which may be very serious. Thank you. Then we know that we heard about 1 in 10 people don't have food. And then even in the US, there are people who do not have access to food. And this number is growing all the time because even in Australia, where I come from now, certain people, because of the current time, because of the cost of living, don't have access to safe, reliable food at the time that they need. And then, as I said, that the security and safety are closely linked. Take defense, right? We go to war to save the society. Then on the other hand, when we do that, we train our forces to make sure that they are safe when they go to war, right? There's a lot of training involved, a lot of intelligence involved, a lot of weapon, therefore all that to save the person who is going to save us, right? But in our food system, actually, we have failed to do that to some extent. And therefore, we know that internationally we have Codex Alimentaris, the World Food Code, and we have developed that code in a way that we have addressed the issues about pathogenic infestations or other security measures. And therefore, food is clean in a way without pathogens. But on the other hand, some of the food we consume, they have other additives, then they have agrochemicals, residues, and they have other adulterants, which are actually willingly incorporated by certain people. And they are not being tested. They are not being tested as well as that we want to. Therefore, they escape into the system. And therefore, what we want to do here is that how do we then address that, because international trade, immigration, global poverty, these systems expose those lapses anywhere in the world, everywhere. Therefore, the risk is actually growing all the time. Therefore, the problem is that how do we then assure the global food system actually can deliver well-being? So when you look at it, the traded volume of the world food is about 1.7 trillion. That's a very small amount compared to the total value of food. And then on the other hand, some of the estimates suggest that some of those unintended consequences of the food system could be as big as 12 trillion, many-fold the traded value of the food. Therefore, those costs are actually borne by the people, you and me, and our children and their children. Therefore, this presentation is largely not about us, about our children and their children. How can we then create a future in a way that we don't make these compromises? Because there are a lot of other undercurrents happening in the system, like the climate change, which is going to exacerbate most of those risks that we have. And then we may not have considered those issues very much because we are trying to grow our populations. But the new generations are much more worried about that. For example, the generation said, our children basically. And they grew up with high level of expectations to have a very, very important, very prosperous future. But they are having all these repercussions that they have to manage in the future. They are going to pay for the cost that we have put into the system. Therefore, if we don't do that, we may be neglecting the duty of care. And we may be exposing them to liability claims in the future. Some are happening already. And then we are risking the future generation. Yeah. And therefore, what we want to do is that really there are issues that we can't discuss in 10 minutes or 15 minutes there because we really don't know what the situation is. That's uncertainty. The issues are very complex. And therefore, there are very conflicting data, claims coming from people who are promoting the system as well as who are being exposed into that. Therefore, we have sort of neglected some of those issues. We want to bring those issues into focus in our discussions. They are very important in the sense of development financing. And because financing enables the development. If in the financing processes we can take those things into account and create awareness and create processes and develop data sets so that we can understand the problem, we can analyze the problems and relate to other consequences, then we might find a solution. Then we might develop policy choices which are encompassing of these issues. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to highlight in this session. And then that is about assuring the future that we may be able to manage those things. And that involves working with the community and developing their capacity. And that's what we are going to do. And then that will allow us to embrace a better future. What we want to do is that in a way, can we develop a vision to encompass that? Something like ensuring the welfare of all stakeholders are met in these processes. That's what we try to achieve in this, and then we will take more questions later, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tilat. Actually, I ask all the speakers have 8 minutes. So when we have 3 minutes, 1 minute left, we will have a time. I invite a time manager here to remind us. And if no minutes left, yeah, he will also remind us. And thank you very much, Dr. Tilat. You are a very good time manager, you yourself. Thank you. And then, thank you for your excellent presentation. I would like to invite Dr. Dio. Dr. Dio actually has written the same book with Dr. Tilat. So please join me to welcome Dr. Dio. Yeah, together. ADB. Yeah.
Maybe we can go to the next one.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Dio. Because he think, for interest of time, we would like to go to the next presenter. Now, please join me. Welcome the next presenter. Yeah, Professor Redna Reddy Vipala. Yeah, he will join us online from internet. Yeah, I would like ask our technician group to help connect with Dr. Redda Reddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. This topic I am going to discuss is about the future of smallholder farmers in South Asia and the looming health hazards of chemical farming. This is part of a bigger work which myself and Dr. Dil Raut jointly working on in covering most of the South Asian countries about the future of smallholders. And as we all know, the problem of health hazards is seeping silently with all the farming affecting all the farming communities as well as the consumers, and which is of late the excessive or continuous use of the agrochemicals are in a way turning our farms into killing fields. That's my observation after looking at all the studies that are coming from these South Asian countries. Excuse me. Yeah. This is like all the agrochemicals which are started getting into agriculture in the 60s and 70s, which were considered as a boon for achieving food security in the most of the developing countries, which led to crop intensification, increased productivities and production. And they have turned of late into a bane kind of thing, affecting the same objectives of food security, that is through declining productivities that are linked with excessive use of agrochemicals, and also increasing the costs, which is again making farming unviable. So they become, like in economics, we term them as externalities of this imbalanced and excessive use of agrochemicals, leading to different kinds of impacts, which are termed as direct and indirect impacts on human health at a large scale. These include that, like direct exposure to pesticides while spraying, which impacts the farmers as well as the farm workers. And indirect impacts include the impacts on soil, environmental degradation, which are degrading the water resources, soils, and also biotic, like biological lives also getting affected, biodiversity is getting affected on a large scale. And there's another indirect impact which is affecting across the countries, irrespective of where it is produced. A lot of consumers are getting affected due to the contamination of food, residues of agrochemicals into the in the food we eat on a regular basis. And this is the kind of becoming a vicious cycle of late, which works through soil and water. The use of agrochemicals gets directly into soil and then into water. Over time, they get into, in a cyclical manner, in the degradation, due to the degradation, farmers tend to use excessive fertilizers to maintain the productivity levels, and also use higher doses of pesticides to deal with the increased resistance of the pests over the years. This becomes a vicious cycle. The more productivity declines we experience, the more fertilizers, the more pest resistance, the higher doses of pesticides. Over a period, goes on increasing as long as something breaks the vicious cycle. This is, as of now, the vicious cycle is going on. In most of the regions, we are experiencing the increased costs due to excessive use of agrochemicals. And the process starts with the excessive or imbalanced use of chemicals. The farm practices, what pesticides or fertilizers the farmers choose to use, how much they use, and how they use it in terms of spraying and mechanical, human, or manual spraying thing. These impact the process and aggravate the conditions as per the farm practices. And climatic conditions, research has clearly shown that in the tropical zones, the agro impacts are more in countries like India, Sri Lanka, where heat also affects the adverse impacts of the chemicals. And human activities, like when farmers choose to harvest, and after harvest, how they process the commodities affects the nutrition levels of the food or produce which gets into the markets. And hydrogeology is another dimension which is very important in terms of translating the agrochemicals into the other resources like soil and water, and depends on the nature of hydrogeology, the nature of impacts also vary. Like in shallow aquifers, the translation is faster and gets into surface water resources in a faster way, very, very quick, and also leads to eutrophication of surface water bodies. In the case of deeper aquifers, the excessive use of chemicals gets into the groundwater systems, which is used for irrigation, and the continuous use of groundwater and excessive use of chemicals on a continuous basis leads to soil eutrophication, making soils unsuitable for production. This is the process, how it leads to the impacts, the externalities impacting the health, nutrition, and food security. So why the rationale for smallholder, how they are getting affected more in the sense that they are the majority in most of the South Asian countries. Even in Asia, they account for 80 to 90% of the total farm holdings. In most cases, smallholders use the intensive farm practices, like we know the size productivity debate and intensification. The small farmers are more intensive users of resources, including their own labor. And they also tend to use, because of the market distortions of the pricing of nitrogen and other complex fertilizers, there is a lot of imbalance on how they use the nitrogen with other complex fertilizers like DAP and MP, kind of other things. And this also linked to their dependence in the absence of proper extension services in most of the
Excuse
Asian,
me, Professor
developing
Vipula.
countries.
1 minute
Yeah.
left. Thank you.
Okay. So they tend to depend on the input dealers who advise them on spurious and excessive use of this pesticides and fertilizers. And they are also smallholders directly involved in farm activities, unlike they don't use hired labor. And more importantly, smallholders, as we all know, they were the last beneficiaries of HYV technologies and the Green Revolution intensification, but they are the first victims of this whole process of chemicalization and its impacts on their health. So there are a number of studies. I don't want to get into the details of, we have done the country-wise impacts and all. I only want to say that this which the impacts, the health impacts which started as a small minor health issues, now they are turned into a big and serious health issues which range from now asthma, uh, kidney diseases, that is chronic kidney disease, cancer, and heart problems. Like kidney diseases are very rampant in Sri Lanka, attracted number of American universities to do research, the medical research, and Indian Punjab is experiencing a cancer among the farming youth on an epidemic scale. So these are the major health issues that are coming up. Second, another thing, indirect impacts like Bangladesh and India, 40% of the food samples are found with residues beyond the maximum limits affecting the health of the consumers. So these are broadly the impacts across the South Asian countries. The policy insights comes from this is regulation of farm chemicals becomes very important, both at the production level as well as imports. And removing market distortions.
Excuse me.
That,
Yeah, please.
Yeah, another 1 minute.
Time is over, but please,
Yeah,
one or two
minute.
sentences. Thank you.
Yeah, moving market distortions to encourage efficient use of fertilizers and technology innovation is another thing. Other things, we all know that awareness, protective gears, and other things are there. In terms of future research, I want to just say that need for epidemiological studies for establishing the scientific linkages and longitudinal studies to identify vulnerable farming communities and foods that are sensitive to chemical farming, and also viability studies of alternative farm practices like precision farming rather than organic farming, which proved disastrous in the case of Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vipala, for your excellent presentation. You still have time because when we have Q&A sessions, you can also share us your very valuable opinions. Now, please join me. Welcome Professor Preeta Datta, the Assistant Professor, TERI School of Advanced Studies. Please.
So, slides. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank ADB and also ADBI for inviting me here today to highlight one of the most important topic that I feel that often gets neglected in most of the climate change discussions, that is the health impact and specifically on the women farmers. So we have also this month published this as a policy brief in ADBI policy briefs. So again, thanks to ADBI for publishing this. And to start with, I would like to say that what I come across from different studies, that over 50% of the global food is produced by the female farmers, and also they represent a higher percentage, like 43% of the global agricultural labor. And when it comes to South Asia, from the figure we can see it is even more, that is 57%, and it is more than the men participation, where men is only involved as 37.5%. Then, however, in South Asia, as we all know, climate change is highly impacting the agricultural sector, and also women farmers are facing several issues because of the traditional gender roles, then the discriminatory practices, and also inequality in terms of assessing the different livelihood capitals. However, the trend in terms of involvement of women farmers in agriculture is increasing. because of the male out migration from the agricultural sector, because since the agrarian distress and also climate change is hitting the agricultural sector very hard, so male are out migrating, and also because of this the women are getting more involved, and this is leading to different role changes in terms of the agriculture. So in future, what I believe is the most of the food production will be at the hand of the women farmers. So, but climate change has a lot of impacts, it is decreasing the yield, increasing the pest attacks, and also in terms of the health, it is impacting the women farmers, I feel, in 4 ways. That is communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, occupational health, and mental health. So we must, I think we all know that climate change is increasing the communicable diseases, and the places where the diseases like malaria, dengue, or diarrhea were not there, because of the climate change, it is there now. So when it comes to the women, it is impacting more than the men. Like in this figure, we can see that malaria is impacting women more than the men, and India is registering as the highest number of cases. And also in terms of diarrhea, again, it is impacting women more than the men, and again, India is showing the higher numbers. And in terms of non-communicable diseases, since many studies have showed, when temperature increases, women are bound to work more in the field because of the men out migration. So they are usually responsible for a lot of tasks, like fetching the water from distant places, so they are more exposed to the impacts of climate change. And also sometimes what I found in different studies, they even give their portion of the food to their family and children. And you can find a lot of studies, and also if you see the policy brief that we publish, there are a lot of studies are there which highlights after the climatic disasters like cyclones in Bangladesh. I can say specifically that many women, they didn't take any food but provided the food to their kid, and they suffered physically, and which led to anemia. And if you see the figures, the percentage of anemia is higher in all the South Asian countries, and even more than the world average. And also maternal mortality ratio is high, because during and after the disasters, the access to healthcare services gets impacted. And also in case of occupational health, as I have already highlighted, that women are really, they work for the family also, and they are responsible for collecting water, then also the fuel wood, then also working throughout the day in the farm, taking care of the livestock. So there are a lot of troubles, and which can cause a lot of impact on their health if they are not taking proper food. And also there are specific sectors like tea, where the women's involvement is more, and they are getting more exposed to the pesticides, and it is causing a lot of health implication. And also in case of mental health also, it is impacting differently. If we see the diagram, it is clearly showing that anxiety disorder is higher among the women than the men. And also in many areas, like coastal areas of India, Bangladesh, women need to spend a lot of time standing in the water, and since the salinity has increased and sea level has also risen, so it is causing a lot of infection in them, and this has become very much prominent in these areas. So in terms of policy recommendations, what I found that all the countries have, come up with different action plans. Like for India, state climate action plans are there. But what studies found that, these policy measures are not really gender sensitive. So what we recommended in the policy brief is to make the policy recommendations more gender sensitive, and ensuring women's participation in the planning, disaster management, management, equitable access to the shelter, then strengthening the healthcare, and mobile clinics can also serve this purpose. And also we recommend the training on safe farming practices and also how to use pesticides, and also to support kitchen gardens. And also there is a requirement of mental health programs and generating awareness among the women. Okay, here I end the presentation, but I will request you all to just to visit the ADBI website for the full brief. More discussions are there with all the references. Here I end my presentation, and thank you all for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Preeta. You are a very good master of time manager. You are just on time. Now, I would like to invite the next presenter, Jeffrey Smith. Yeah, please. For other, including Preeta and our previous two presenters, I hope you to think about in your mind 3 keywords to summarize your presentation. Later, I will ask the question to you. Please, Jeffrey.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank the organizers, ADB, ADBI, for organizing this session and this very important conference, really critical work. So my talk is going to be a little bit different. You don't need to take any notes. Only the last page is my email, because I'm going to cover a lot of topics and too many to keep track of. But I wanted to fit them in because we're talking about some really important but really complicated issues. This whole link from growing food safely to transporting it safely, processing safely, consuming healthy diets, making a whole bioeconomy, and now you've got the energy and climate aspects of this as well. So there's so many complicated topics, every one of which could have a 2 or 3 day symposium. So I'm just going to go through some of them really quickly and give a little bit of food for thought and potentially some future work and some of the things that we're working on. So have to point this in a certain direction. There we are. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so no conflicts of interest. So I've just put in quite a few topics, as you can see, we'll come back to. Just to mention a little bit about ILSI, so I'm here independently, but I do a lot of work. I'm leading ILSI for this part of the world. It's a global nonprofit scientific organization that works on nutrition, food safety, and sustainability. It's supported by members, but also half of our board is from the public sector, so Dr. Corazon Barba, who's the former director of the FNRI Food and Nutrition Research Institute here in the Philippines, the former deputy head of health of the Australian National Research Organization, CSIRO, Professor Paul Teng, who you'll hear later. So we work very closely with the public sector for guiding, trying to bring together all these sectors of government, academia, and industry together to work on these important issues. I'm going to give a little bit of context. So this is, people aren't thinking about this so much. 70 years ago, so basically almost a lifetime ago, we had fewer than 3 billion people in the world, 2.7 billion by an estimate. Now, as you know, last year we reached 8 billion, so we increased by more than 5 billion in this 70 years. For the next 70 years, the projections are much lower, so not adding another 5 billion, not even, but at the most half of that or even a quarter of that level. So birth rates, some kind of total fertility rate is decreasing a lot. It's gone down by more than half in the last 70 years. Some of you may recognize the replacement rate, the number of children needed per woman to maintain the population is 2.1. We're already down to 2.23 most recently, and we're projected to go below that. So at a certain moment, you can even think of population declines. And that's going to have a lot of impact and a lot of different ways, but certainly farming and agriculture will be one. So maybe we reach 10.5 billion in 70 years, but some people think 9.5, and some people think even lower. Cities already more than half the world's population. That's the first time in world history that's happened. Only 3% of the land, so that's another context. It takes the pressure on farming is somewhat less. Farming is traditionally very labor intensive, so we've been hearing about smallholder farming, and that's labor intensive, so if we can reduce that need for labor intensive effort, that's going to be important because there are going to be fewer workers available for the farm. So we need to produce a lot more food, obviously, and for animal source food, it takes a lot of extra plant food to grow for those animals, so that's a complication. But there is a lot of innovation, a lot of scientific developments, but of course it also leads to more complications. So I'm going to go through these again really quickly. Don't have time to go into detail, but just to mention, there's been already some in some of the sessions earlier talking about food fortification. Pretty simple, adding certain nutrients to food to basic people's standard diet so that they get an increased amount of those important nutrients. I've listed some of the important ones: iron, zinc, thiamine, zinc, iodine are very important. We add iodine to salt almost all over the world. The World Health Assembly last year, the global body of representatives for world health run by the World Health Organization, last year passed a resolution supporting fortification, so I think this is going to be more broadly implemented in this part of the world and other parts of the world. The International Finance Corporation under the World Bank is also working to support this. A lot of work in Asia, but not quite enough. There's also a development of biofortification, so a need to you can grow the plants differently to have higher levels of these nutrients. When you talk about sustainability, what are the metrics that you're using? This is also a very important but very complicated question. How do you determine, are you moving forward? Where do you stand in terms of sustainability, in terms of the ability of people to buy the agricultural products, of people to have healthy diets, of affordability, of waste, and all of those kinds of aspects are very complicated. So I've given a whole bunch of references. ILSI's worked on this issue in the past. We've recently supported the work in the Philippines to update those metrics, and you can read those papers in those references if you look at them. Just to give an example, all the things, right? So food diversity, per capita land use, food affordability, all those things, and you have a lot of things to trade off. So it's a very complicated topic. I'm going to switch gears completely to plant protection. So plant protection, those pests are everywhere. So to keep plants growing, you need to protect against these pests. It's a really big problem. FAO has done a lot of work in this area. Costs many, many billions. We had an expert workshop last year in Vietnam looking at some of these areas, including synthetic pesticides, including biopesticides, so microorganisms that can attack the pests, and then what's called biocontrol, so using other insects to attack the ones you don't want. So a lot of complicated areas, but a lot of good science going on in this area. I just note that the EU had proposed a big decrease, 50% decrease in pesticides. They've withdrawn this because it's just proving too difficult. So we might want to do some things, but we have to grow the food also people need to eat. I'll make the last point, human pesticide intake monitoring is too little capacity to do that in Asia. In Europe, we know exposure is, in less than 1% of the cases, it exceeds the maximum permitted, but in Asia, we actually don't know very well. Innovation, I'm not going to go through all those things. You can read about biodiversity, sensors to detect things in the field, lots of new agricultural chemicals coming up. Someone mentioned earlier about soil and plant microbiome, so this is again another very complex issue. The soil has, we know about our gut microbiome, we have one, but the soil also has a microbiome, and the plants have a microbiome. This is also an area of very important research, has implications for plant productivity. Protein, we've got all kinds of new novel proteins coming up, and those need better reviews of the nutritional profile of those. I just want to mention one because we've talked about women and girls especially, and smallholder farmers. Probably the most important benefit smallholder farmers can receive is the electrification. If the rural electrification is critical for smallholder farmers, it saves a lot of time and labor, and this is going to be really important for them in the future, and you have to look at all these options very carefully. So food systems are very complex. There's a lot of work to be done in many, many different areas. We have to bring people together, and again, I congratulate ADB for this important, and ADBI for this important conference forum this week. A lot of transdisciplinary work, so people who don't know about this part need to know about the other aspects that are going on. We did a study recently, or in the middle of COVID, found that Asia was actually pretty resilient, but more resiliency needs to be built in, and Asia, I think, can lead on this topic. So this is that's my email address in case you want to have a copy of these slides and go into any of those topics in more detail.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. You're very good at time. Manager. Okay, now please join me to welcome Dr. Paul Tan to present his view. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm trying to share my
Dr.
screen.
Okay,
I've not been able to
please.
do so.
Yeah, thank you. Technician
technicians home?
colleagues, please, could you please show the face of Professor Paul Tan? You can start to talk. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm trying to share my screen.
We can see
hang on.
you here. And please think about your time, 8 minutes. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Shall do so. Well, thank you very much, Michelle. And I would like to contribute to this session by talking about why nutrition matters in redesigning food systems. Just to refresh our minds, in recent times, there's been a lot of conversations revolving around why food systems are currently broken or why food systems need to be changed. Now, in redesigning food systems, obviously a very important outcome is food security, and we've heard quite a bit about it this afternoon. But the scope of food security has really changed, since the, let's say, baseline around 1950, First World War II, where the main imperative was to produce more, hence the Green Revolution. And then in 1996, the FAO seminal definition, which really went beyond calories to nutrition, right? Including, within the food security definition, the importance to have a proper diet. Okay? Now, of course, in the 2000s, we've seen both FAO and WHO move more and more towards both food and nutrition security. In today's context, I think there's a big recognition that to be food secure, all dimensions of food security have to be met. And we've heard a bit about that today, including access to nutritious food and nutrition itself, plus the stability and also of the health, as the first speaker mentioned. But we're also recognizing now that there is an environmental cost to food and nutrition security. And we've heard a little bit about it in this particular forum here at ADB. Now, I have 3 key messages in time I have, to talk. Really, the first message really is that today, food security has to be concerned about nutrition quality and not calories quantity alone, especially amongst the growing middle class in Asia, which is astronomical. My second message really is that nutrition security is strongly linked to household income. So there has to be associated efforts to increase household income. In other words, the economic access to food. My third message is that to make food systems more nutrition focused, specific actions are possible. And here's where the One Health concept becomes so important. I think we're increasingly recognizing now that food production / agriculture is strongly linked to nutrition / diet, to health and indeed wellness. Let me just unpack each of these in turn very quickly. I think we're very familiar now by this time with this thing about the triple burden of malnutrition, which IFPRI first popularized. And we heard one of the previous speakers again talk about overnutrition, undernutrition, non-communicable diseases, as we see it so graphically in this particular diagram. Right? We're all going through a nutrition transition in developing Asia especially. And because of the increased intake of processed food and so on and so forth, we're seeing more NDCs occurring. Now, at the same time, we're also seeing a lot of undernutrition, right? In fact, in terms of numbers, Asia has the largest number of malnourished people, not in terms of percentage, but in terms of actual number itself. So that's really kind of the first message that I want to give. Now, my second message really is that because nutrition security is so strongly linked to household income, and here's some data, that shows that. Basically, the higher GDP per capita, we see less undernourishment. So what do we do about it as a policy guide? Right? Obviously, one of the things is to try to improve household income through different ways, economic activities, and so on and so forth. Again, we don't have too much time to talk about that today. Now, we also know that households with higher food affordability have a more diverse diet, which then contributes to having much better nutrition. Okay, apart from the calories part, the minerals especially are very important. And data shows too, especially for the GFSI, high affordability means less undernourishment. Very key point indeed, huh? Because after all, we're aiming for as complete nourishment as possible. I think as we move towards food security. Then my third message really deals with the focus itself. Okay, how do we make sure that we are focused enough on making new food systems more, I would say, nutrition emphasized. Okay, and my suggestion is that we can achieve nutrition security by developing a strong science and technology base. And here are just some suggestions, some of which were written about in policy briefs and so on. One example is the BMI. Are we in fact redefining norms and standards that are influenced by demographics and subcultures? We're all using Western BMIs, body mass index, that is, to measure the status of health. Now, quality itself, the nutrient content of crops and food. Are we consciously, in fact, building in the science base that when we decide what crops to grow, what diets we're trying to promote through different government agencies, do we actually, in fact, recognize quality in terms of nutrition? Then one of my colleagues from Sri Lanka talks a lot about digestible protein in diet. We might eat, lots of plant-based protein, but are they digestible? So are we in fact getting the right amount of nutrition that we have? And I want to share with this particular phrase from FAO, who years ago started talking about the rainbow diet. In other words, vegetables, as we know in Asia, are a very key part of not just protein, but also minerals, right? But are we getting the right mix of vegetables? And what policies do we need to put in place to encourage poorer families, for example, to have a rainbow diet, in other words, eating vegetables and food of different colors to get the right mix of minerals that they so require to kind of avoid the question of mineral deficiencies that we're seeing happening in many communities here in Asia Pacific. Then, of course, the link between nutrition insecurity, cognition development, and learning abilities of children. Again, in redesigning food systems for the future, we must again recognize the impact that nutrition insecurity has through diet on learning abilities of children. I mean, the statistics are actually horrifying. Now, of course, the link between diet and neurodegenerative diseases is there. And then Jeff talked about novel food. What is in novel food? Just the nutrition content. And finally, just to finish off, we need to tap on disruptive food technologies, of which there are many now. For example, technologies that revolve around converting food waste into useful food products. All this is coming to bear as part of this discourse on food systems. Because as we know by definition, food systems span the entire
Excuse
supply
me,
chain.
Professor Teng. Yeah.
Yes.
1
I'm almost
minute
done.
left. Thank you.
Well, my record says 7 minutes, 40 seconds right now. So let me finish off with 3 key messages. The first message is that food security today has to be concerned about nutrition quality and not just calories alone. Second is that nutrition security must be linked to household income in different ways. And third, of course, is to build a strong science base and use the One Health concept to underpin the science behind it. With that, thank you very much, and I believe I've just exceeded by 7 seconds. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you very much, Professor Paul. Thank you. Now, last but not least, let's invite Professor Hongmei Yi to present his speech. Hongmei Yi, are you there? Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, please
Yes,
start.
I will,
Thank you.
share my screen. Sir, can anyone help me to share my screen? I'm
Yeah,
not.
we can see you very clear. Please, just start. Yeah.
I need to share. I have a PPT, so I need to share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
it works now.
Yeah, it's okay. Please share.
Okay, thank you.
So please remind that you also have a minute,
Okay.
and we will remind you when you have 1 minute left. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Yixin, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be here to share my insights on this very important topic. Today, I will introduce China's practices for utilizing digital innovations to improve producers and consumers' health and well-being in its agri-food system. My
You
talk
have your
consists
PPT show? Is there no
Can
PPT
you show
here?
me? Can you read my PPT?
Yeah, we can't find it.
Oh,
Oh,
you can't?
Yeah, our technician group could help, or just the technician group could present the PPT. You just speak.
I'll try again.
Okay, please go on. And I think the technician group will help to set up the PPT. Okay, PPT is ready. Okay, please. Yeah, continue. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next page. Oh, so can
Yes, please speak. Everything is fine. Yeah, we can see the PPT. Yeah.
okay. Okay. My talk consists of 3 parts. First, I will briefly introduce China's agri-food food system achievement and can you turn to the next page? Achievement, yes, and challenges. Next, China's agri-food system has achieved incredible success, feeding 20% of the world's population, with only 9% of its urban land and 6% of fresh water. The eradication of extreme poverty by 2020 and the increase in life expectancy are testaments of these achievements. A simple comparison, next, please. Next page. A simple comparison of trends in nutritional intake between China, Japan, and Korea shows that China has caught up since the beginning of this century. It provides another example of the system's achievements. Next, please. Despite these successes, China's agri-food system faces significant challenges from the perspective of One House. One House, the concept that Professor Chen mentioned in his talk, that the house of humans, animals, and the environment are inextricably linked. For example, next page, please. Non-point source pollution from agricultural production threatens water bodies and further affects animal and human health. Next. Yes, thank you. Healthy dietary patterns contributed to a rise. Zoonotic diseases pose significant global health risks. Yeah, with over 60% of emerging infectious diseases being zoonoses. Next, please. Healthy dietary patterns contributed to a rise in non-communicable diseases exacerbated by over-processed foods and misleading marketing practices. In fact, the earlier speakers have talked about the challenges. Yeah, China have the similar problems now. Next, please. Yeah, these challenges underscore the critical need for integrated solutions that simultaneously to address human, animal, and environmental health. In response, China has embraced next, please. Has embraced digital innovations in the agri-food supply chain from farm to table, and the advocacy of policies, local governments, industries, enterprises, and individuals have all carried out extensive practices. Here I will take 5 examples to show the potential of digital innovations as an integrated solution to address those challenges. Next, the first example is the use of drones for plant protection. In China, drones for plant protection have been widely adopted in the recently in 2020, the joints for over 8 billion hectares. It saved farmers' labor and minimizes farmers' exposure to hazardous pesticides. Meanwhile, next, next please. Meanwhile, the intelligent system for water and fertilizer management have also been used mostly in the protected agriculture. The systems enhance water and fertilizer efficiency and reduce pollution. Next, please. Next, please. Meanwhile, we also see that digital pesticide monitoring platforms have been piloted in some provinces. For example, in Jiangsu provinces, is eastern province and a relatively developed province in China. Is expected to ensure the safety and the efficiency of pesticide and reduce the adverse effects on environment, animal, and human health. Next, please. The first example is blockchain-based traceability systems for food safety. It aims to reduce risks to health by improving transparency and accountability. There are many panels, but in general, I have to say it's still in its early stages due to high cost of realizing the farming tracking from farm to table, and also lack of corresponding institutional support. In the future, we may focus on critical control points only, rather than the furnings on the chain, so that we can control the cost.
Excuse me,
next,
Mei, 1 minute left.
I'll go it quickly. The last example I want to mention here is the digital tools developed to promote consumer healthy and eco-friendly behaviors. Consumer choice drives market economies. Faced with appropriate market or regulatory signals, processors, manufacturers, and food service providers are expected to adjust their behaviors to a sustainable way. Thus, those innovations represent a paradigm shift towards a more sustainable and health-conscious agri-food system. In my opinion, the left picture shows the findings from online random experiment, one of the biggest food ordering platforms in China. It finds that food delivery apps could drastically cut plastic waste by nudging users to skip cartonly. There are also lots of easy to take and low-cost apps, as the right picture shows, to help consumers plan their diet on a scientific base. Next, please. The last one. Next. In summary, we need to consider the sustainability of the agri-food system in the future in the framework of One Health. China's practices show the potential of digital innovations to address the challenges of environmental, animal, and human health simultaneously. So the journey ahead demands expanding these digital, or more precisely, social technical bonded innovations, making them more accessible, affordable, and scalable across global agri-food systems. As we must bring together experts from academics across different disciplines, governments, public and private institutions to achieve meaningful changes in public wellness policies and practice. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Yixin.
Thank you very much, Professor Hong Mei, for your excellent presentation. I'm sorry for our speakers. I always remind you the time. Now, I would like to open the floor to Q&A. We can have, if you have questions, please, we have a microphone there. Very briefly introduce, who, your name, where you're from, and what is your questions. And you would like, whom of our presenters to answer your questions. So please also, we have some audience online. Also, we welcome you just write down your question at the Q&A box, the chat box. Then later we can collect your questions to deliver it to all the panelists. Thank you. Now, to encourage you to ask questions, I have some small gifts here. Later, I will deliver it to you. Please, you can use the microphone here directly. Your name, where you're from, and what your question. Very briefly, thank you.
I'm Kasturi. I live here. I'm an independent consultant. More than a question, it is to Dr. Reddy Vipala. And one of his last statements that we should look into drip irrigation rather than organic cultivation because of her experience in Sri Lanka. I think that is not as simplistic and can be ruled out. We have to look into why we are successful in Bhutan and in Andhra Pradesh, where more than 6 million farmers have turned organic, and the whole state of Bhutan and been converted to organic, and they are doing very well. And there has been no such problem that happened in Sri Lanka. One of the reasons could be it was an abrupt shift, because the soil which has lost its nutrient content and fertility cannot be overnight shifted to organic. The soil health has to be revived, and it should be done in phases. So that is one answer, because whatever decision we take in this hall has a big repercussion in policy making, and we are in a really cusp of time. We don't have luxury of taking wrong decisions, and we can't do it. Mother Nature is not ready to give us so much of time. So that is one thing. And the second thing is that I have a recommendation that maybe we should look into more plant-based food, because one, it takes less water, less land to produce the same amount of food compared to animal food. And the second reason is because there could be much more animal food-related disease, because of, we have seen in the earlier presentations, because of the health-related challenges animal husbandry will face because of climate change. And there was another one. Okay, many policy recommendations are already floating around that we need to move farmers out of farming because there is so much of people already living in cities. But probably we should look into how we can move them back to field. And the only way that farmers can return to farming is by if we can make farming more profitable for them. And the way to do it is to regain the soil fertility once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Please, you can answer online.
Yeah,
Please, Professor.
yeah. What I'm saying is not against organic farming or not promoting. That's actually I am meaning to how you promote it, in the sense that farmers can adopt it in a more healthy and systematic manner, where their productivities and farm incomes are not getting affected. That's why the time gap, we are talking about the precision farming, how we can translate that into the organic farming in the long run can be addressed by addressing at the same time the health issues and the soil issues and all, rather than jumping into that. And coming to the AP's natural farming, I am from AP. I have done extensively worked on natural farming, which I don't think from the farmer's perspective there is anything right about farming, natural farming in Andhra Pradesh, where farmers, if the farming, what they are claiming, government and other people claiming what their success stories, this would have become a wildfire by now, like Green Revolution technologies. That has not happened. I will share one of my papers on natural farming, what is actually the problem with natural farming, which is not being picked up. It is only showing in statistics that this many acres of land, this many farmers are doing, but it's not the reality what farmers are really interested in doing it, and there is other problems, systemic problems and other problems, not to say that natural farming is not good or bad or whatever it is, but what is happening with natural farming in Andhra Pradesh. The third one is having, like everybody is talking about smallholders, they are not viable, like 67% of the farmers in India don't want to do agriculture, but they are the people who are providing us food. How to sustain them, how to protect them, their environment, their soils and water resources, so that they can continue producing in an economic manner, so that they are not deprived of other things. Like I said, 80–90% are smallholders, and they are the last to benefit from green revolution technologies, and they are the first to get affected by these same technologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you. Any questions? Now, the time is limited, so I would like to ask our panelists to summarize their presentation into three keywords or one sentence to let us know what is the opinion they would like us to take away from this forum. So first, I would like Professor Tilak. You can use this microphone.
Yeah, it's a tough task, but I would say that the main sort of idea is that security without safety is self-defeating. Therefore, we have to take safety into considerations because the markets are currently failing to do so. And market will unlikely to incorporate those risks, but they are borne by the society. Therefore, development finance has an opportunity to play a pivotal role because they decide on future developments, and then we can, with good policies, we can overcome the problem.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Then I would like Professor Vipala, you have one sentence or three keywords you want us to know, please.
Yeah, my basic thing is how to make agriculture viable and profitable for the farmers, and smallholders are at the center of the whole problem, whether it is what kind of farming they are not interested in, they are only interested in their survival, how to make them viable and profitable. That is the
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Vipala. Now, Dr. Preeta Datta, please.
Yeah. So I would like to say from whatever field surveys I have done, so one question I used to ask whether the future generation, they want to do farming or not. So the majority of them said they don't want to continue farming. And actually they are going out of the village, and in many places wherever I surveyed, I found this phenomena. So what I feel, we need to now look into what can make farming profitable, and also environmental concerns we have to see, so that future generation is still interested in farming and we are food secure. Yeah.
Thank you, Datta. Thank you. Now, Jeffrey, please. You have three keywords for us or one sentence? Yeah, for the audience. Thank you.
So not so easy to condense to 3 words, but anyhow, I'll try to summarize very quickly. This is a critical problem for human beings. We have to solve these issues of food security and reliability in increasing population. As I point out, if I say our problem is less than it was 70 years ago, the population is increasing less, so I don't think we need to panic, but there is urgency. There are people who are malnourished, not getting the right nutrition, and other focus. So there are many complexities, and so I don't want to use so the fancy word transdisciplinary is important. It's important to bring all of these different areas of expertise together to be aware of what the other is doing, which might have an impact on that. So I would encourage it. I think this is a good outcome of this particular forum, to look at all of those different aspects in which nobody can be expert in all of them, and looking at how you can approach those problems and unleash that innovation. So the second point is there is a tremendous amount of innovation. We're understanding the biology of plant growth much better than we did before. We understand how we could protect against, by breeding, protect against some of the climate differences and changes in climate, new sensor technologies, better understanding of human nutrition. All of these things are coming together, so that's important. I just mentioned last point, Professor Teng said increasing incomes for farming is important. I would go back to my point that rural electrification is one of the key ways to improve farmer incomes and progress.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Then, Professor Paul Teng, Dean and Managing Director, please. Only one sentence or 3 keywords. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Michelle, I'll try to be the only one to give you one sentence. Okay?
Thank you.
I think we need to redesign food systems that can meet all the aspirations that we've heard, with respect to the environment, with respect to economics, with respect to society. That's my one sentence.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry for interest of time. Yeah, we have to summarize it. Thank you. And Yi-Hong Mei, please, if you have any keywords to share with us. Thank you.
I will use 3 keywords. One house and integrate the solution, teach the solution.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Yi-Hong Mei. Now, I would like to invite Dio-san, the Vice Chair and Senior Research Fellow of ADBI, to run up this session. Please, Dio-san. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Firstly, before I start saying something, I'd like to extend my thanks and gratitude to the panelists. Actually, the panelists here and online are very distinguished researchers. They have spent significant amount of time doing research in this area. They have spent significant amount of time working with the farmers. They bring huge amount of knowledge, and this 90 minutes that we have is not sufficient. And I hope we'll have more time to discuss this very, very important issue. And we are really glad that you made time for us. And also I'd like to thank EDB for organizing these important sessions, and also all the participants. One of the things is that this is something that we have really talked very less. Whenever we talk about food security, we always talked about productions. That's it. And as Professor Tan pointed out, that productions alone is not enough. We need to take into account the nutritions. If you look at our own diet, we only have carbohydrates, very less amounts of other nutrients. So that's one of the problems. And it's not easy to change. It takes generations. Like many of us, we have left our home and moved out, but we still continue to take the same diet. It takes generations to bring about change. And I think it's very important that we change our behavior for our good health in terms of food consumptions. And as Professor Tan, you rightly pointed out, we really need to transform the food system. We cannot do the way we have been doing. And Geoff, thank you so much for pointing out the issues of biofortifications, microorganisms that you talked about. These are very, very important, the electricity part. And Pritha, also like very important issues. Actually, if you look at today, more than half of the farmers are female due to migrations. They are the one who is soldiering the responsibility, and they are being exposed to the risks of pesticides, risks of heat stress. And we have found, like, many females actually suffers a lot. They have to walk on saline water, which is really devastating to their health. So we really need to take care of female farmers. As Professor Reddy pointed out, yes, these are the producers. If we don't pay attention to them, we are going to destroy our food system. We really need to invest on our farmers. And Tilak, what you pointed out is very, very, very important. Food safety without security is devastating. It can be catastrophic. If you go back home today, when you look at your food, would you like to consume? Yes or no? You know, when you look at your food, you think that it's so delicious, but it could be contaminated. If you look at today green lassi vegetables that you get in the market, it could have been grown in a Suarez, near the Suarez tank, fully contaminated. And you take salad. Salad is good for health, right? But it could be contaminated with so many bacteria and viruses. Actually, you're not doing good to your health. You are devastating. One of the thing is that if you look at the pesticides, you know, the cancer risks, why, although we know that it poses risks to our body and health, but we continue to consume because the impact is felt in maybe 10 years later, 20 years later, right? So we don't care what will happen 20 years later, but when you reach that time, then that's where we face the consequences. And it's devastating. As Tilak pointed out, the cost is about $20 billion. So that's the amount of cost that's going to come. And as a human being, I think we are very, very notorious in the sense that today, if we don't tell you anything, nobody wants to do any insurance because we don't want to buy insurance. We feel everything will go fine. But then when we face accident, that's when we realize, oh, we should have done accident. And that's where I think the regulations plays a very important role, as panelists pointed out. We really need to have regulation in place so that that will actually mold our behavior. And very little actually came out during our discussion was the problem of microplastic. Microplastic is devastating. It has got into our food system and is getting into our human system. So it's very, very important. And thanks to ADB that you really took into account these great problems and organized this panel discussion. Thank you so much, and thanks to everyone.